the Wisconsin Badgers. And guys, I'll just throw it out off the top. How hot is Luke Fickell's seat in Camp Randall? Because to me, it feels like it kind of should be scorching hot.
It's so difficult though, because if you just look at the results and the win-loss records, I know we evaluate everybody off of that, then it's definitely been subpar. It's not what they hired him to be. But he's yet to have a quarterback finish a season as a starter. He's been down to his third string at times as a starting quarterback. He made a flashy offensive coordinator hire that didn't really pan out, and I think that he's learned from that mistake. They're shifting back to some to a
Jeff
different
Grimes.
system. Jeff Grimes is going to come in, and that. But we laugh, but Jeff Grimes has run some really good offenses at
Sure has.
places that's not easy to run good offenses. BYU, he was a Broyles Award winner or finalist. Baylor, he was a Broyles Award finalist. So I think that Jeff Grimes can be a better OC for Wisconsin than he was for Kansas last year. Because I think Kansas was trying to fit a lot of square pegs into some round holes in his offense, and it just really didn't work. But with Wisconsin, I think they're going to switch to a zone run scheme. I think they have the backs that can really do that. I really like Darian Dupree in that role, and maybe Dylan Jones as well. I think that I think the offense could really turn around. So the seat is probably very hot. Let me circle back to the question you actually asked. The seat is probably pretty hot, but I think there has to be a little bit of grace there, right? Because of the quarterback situation, because of leading Wisconsin through a transition time when they're not in the Big Ten West anymore, and they have to find a way to beat these teams that are playing a different style of football than they were building to for years and years and years. So he needs to win. I think the schedule is going to probably buy him maybe some more grace this year if he can find a way to 5 wins again. I think that that's going to be a borderline miracle, but we'll see. He was hired to be much better than he has been. That's for sure.
Well, and I think, Garrett, I'll throw this to you next, too. First of all, Cade Giacomelli, I know carries a lot of hope with him in the Wisconsin backfield, 8.3 yards a pop last season. You mentioned Grimes getting back to his own running scheme, and that's what Wisconsin football should be. I mean, we loved the attempt of the Dairy Raid, right? But it didn't work. And it didn't work for a variety of reasons. And sure, Phil Longo had to fall on his sword there and get dismissed, and now he's, down coaching his beloved Sam Houston State Bearcats. So I think, honestly, all parties might have won in the end here. Where I'm not sure what to believe is the defense took an uncharacteristic step backwards last year. They were not good against the run, 91st against the run. We're just not used to seeing Wisconsin get pushed around, especially in the trenches. And you mentioned that Fickell is going to once again go to the transfer portal for a quarterback. All 3 years, he's relied on a transfer portal quarterback. There has been no development at that position. They just watched their last 2 4-star recruits exit via the portal. Mayberry Medower was kind of the next shining hope up at Wisconsin. He's now at Sam Houston State with Phil Longo. So they go to Billy Edwards from Maryland. And Garrett, he was a dual threat guy for the Terps last year. Turned the ball over a little bit more than what I would have liked. 9 interceptions to, I think it was 13 touchdowns, I want to say, almost 3,000 yards. So if they are getting back to his own running scheme, it feels like, having a guy who is dual threat can roll out of the pocket on those play action passes and make you respect both his arm and his legs, in theory, is a really good thing. But I look at their schedule as well, and I just don't know if Billy Edwards Jr. is the guy that's going to get my team to a bowl game.
Yeah, he wouldn't be the one that I'd want to rely on in this situation. I'm a little bit further down on Wisconsin than I think probably most people are. I don't think they're going to end up being too good, and a lot of it just has to do with the fact that Luke Fickell's had talent. He's supposed to be a really good coach. You've seen what he's been able to do, in the past, but he just, it isn't working. Something isn't working. I don't know what it is. And to kind of go back to the hot seat question for a second, I don't think there's anything he does this year that gets him fired, but there's a lot of stuff he can do this year that puts him on every single hot seat list next offseason, right? So there's a lot of stuff he can do that'll say, if he doesn't make a bowl game, then patience will start wearing thin, because Wisconsin has gotten used to, and I think rightfully so, a pretty fair, sustained level of success, and it's just not there right now. with Wisconsin. I wouldn't want to be relying on Billy Edwards Jr. to be my quarterback. Just from a consistency standpoint, I think, if you're Wisconsin, you talked about the zone scheme and being able to run. That's great. Not turning the ball over, I think, would be something that I'd really want to see out of him, is just finding a way to not throw the ball to the other team, because I want to make everything count if my offense is struggling, right? If I'm trying to rely on the run to convert, long drives into points, I don't want to turn the ball over. I want as many opportunities as I can get. And especially if that involves things like time of possession, trying to keep the other team's defense on the field, wear them down a little bit. Those are all things that you have to stay on the field to do. With a quarterback that's a little bit more erratic, turns the ball over a little bit more, that makes me a little bit nervous. So, look, definitely not the easiest schedule. Obviously, they go at Alabama and sort of their offseason. I don't think Miami, Ohio is a pushover team either. You play at Michigan, you get Ohio State, you get at Oregon, you play
Garrett,
Indiana.
just read it. Hold on. Read it in order after the Maryland game, after their first bye. Just read it in order and let that speak for itself.
It's pretty brutal. At Michigan, Iowa at home, Ohio State at home, at Oregon, Washington, at Indiana, Illinois, and at Minnesota. Minnesota might be like their best chance at a win in that stretch.
They're not a pushover either.
They're not a pushover team either. So between Maryland, which is September 20th, and Minnesota, which is November 29th, you may not see a whole lot of W's on schedule for Wisconsin. They're going to have to stack them up early, and I don't see it. I mean, I think you could make a legitimate case for a 3-win team here.
Well, the bottom line, guys, is they just need to get back to Wisconsin football. You mentioned the dairy raid not working. In all 7 of their losses last year, they were outrushed by an average of 86 yards per game. If they outrushed the other team, they won the game last year. 5-0 when they outrushed the other team, 0-7 when they got outrushed. So it's a combination of the defense not being good at stopping the run. They brought in a lot of defensive line transfers, 8 defensive line transfers. They have 9 total guys listed over 300 pounds now. So maybe we're getting back to Wisconsin football.
Yeah.
Right? But the other side of the ball, too, they have to be able to run the ball and control that tempo. I'm with you, Garrett. When I just kind of sketched out the schedule, if nothing improves from last year, if it's just a very similar vibe to what we saw last year, I get 4-8. And I think that's being generous with finding a win somewhere where they're probably not going to be favored. But if there is improvement, if Billy Edwards can run that system really well, and if they can run the ball better and stop the run better, I could definitely see them getting back to a bowl game because they do have that talent there. And I don't think Luke Fickell has forgotten how to coach.
No, I don't either. I think you both have hit the nail on the head at various points. It just hasn't worked yet, right? We know he's a good coach. He got Cincinnati to the college football playoff when it was just a 4-team playoff, right? So we know the guy can win. We know he can coach. It just the pieces haven't resulted in wins quite yet. And yeah, this schedule is absolutely disgusting. Wisconsin fans, listen, if you're still watching, if you're still listening, we're burying at least my lead, and I put this in the written preview. I like your team. I really do. I like a lot of the talent on the roster. I just have questions at a couple of positions and trends that I'm concerned about that I want to see change. I want to see a bounce in that chart before I'm willing to invest in it. I don't know if we found rock bottom yet, and I want to make sure that we're going to get some resistance there to go ahead and make our climb back up. So wins and losses, I do not think will determine the worth of this college football team. Of course, the age-old saying, you are what your record says you are. In this case, I don't know that it's going to apply. I think this is a very talented team that's got a lot going for it, except for the freaking schedule, which is just going to be daunting.
You guys scheduled the road trip to Alabama. I can't really help you there, but
yeah,
you guys should really consider marching on the Big Ten office in Indianapolis because hunger strike something, because I think that stretch that Garrett read is illegal in several countries and frowned upon by the Geneva Convention.
It's a hate crime for sure. It shouldn't be allowed in college football.